Welcome to Bible Story with Ojatts.
In the quiet dawn of the world, when humanity was but a single family and the earth still sighed with the memory of its creation, two brothers walked under the gaze of God. Cain, the firstborn, a man of the soil, whose hands knew the language of dust and seed. And Abel, the second son, a keeper of flocks, whose voice was known to the gentle bleating of lambs. They were the first sons of Adam and Eve, the first pulse of a new generation, born into a world of breathtaking beauty and lingering shadow. The sun would rise, painting the fields in hues of gold, and Cain would be there, his brow furrowed in labor, coaxing life from the stubborn ground. He saw the world as a thing to be worked, to be tilled and tamed. His joy was in the harvest, the tangible fruit of his sweat and toil. He was a man of substance, of the earth itself. Abel, in contrast, moved with the rhythm of his flock. He saw the world as a living tapestry, a place of quiet communion. His joy was in the first cry of a newborn lamb, the trust in a creature's eye, the simple peace of a pasture at dusk. Their offerings were a reflection of their very souls. Cain, with hands calloused and strong, brought forward the best of his harvest, grains burnished by the sun, fruits heavy on the vine. It was the product of his strength, a testament to his dominion over the earth. He laid it upon the stone altar, an offering of labor, a gift of what he had made. Then came Abel. He approached not with the pride of a conqueror, but with the humility of a steward. He brought the firstling of his flock, the most perfect and unblemished lamb. It was not something he had made, but something he had nurtured. It was an offering of life itself, a sacrifice that acknowledged a deeper truth, that all life belonged not to the hand that tended it, but to the one who gave it breath. He laid his gift upon the altar, a whisper of devotion, an act of pure faith. And God looked upon them. A light, a presence, and knowing that transcends mortal understanding, fell upon Abel's offering. The smoke from his sacrifice ascended straight to the heavens, a fragrant pillar of acceptance. The lamb was received. Faith was honored. But over Cain's offering, there was only silence. The smoke drifted low, clinging to the earth like a shroud. His gift, born of sweat and struggle, was not regarded. The silence was not a rebuke of his labor, but a question to his heart. Why was the offering given? Was it from a place of gratitude or a place of pride? A seed, dark and venomous, was planted in the soil of Cain's heart. He watched his brother, whose face was serene with the light of divine favor, and a coldness crept into his veins. It was the birth of envy, the first shadow to fall between two human souls. The world, once a shared garden, now felt like a stage for comparison. Abel's light now cast a long, dark shadow, and in that shadow, Cain began to wither. He saw his brother not as a brother, but as a rival. Abel's gentle nature felt like a judgment. His acceptance by God felt like Cain's own rejection. The wind that once carried the scent of wet earth and blooming flowers now seemed to whisper his brother's name in mockery. Every bleat of a lamb was a note in a song of his own failure. The green of the fields turned sickly in his eyes, the vibrant sun a glaring accuser. God, who sees the turning of every heart, approached Cain in the quiet turmoil of his soul. His voice was not a thunderclap of condemnation, but a gentle inquiry, a father's plea. "Why are you so angry?" he asked. "Why has your face fallen? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." It was a warning and a promise. A path to redemption was laid bare. The choice was his. He could confront the beast of envy, master it, and find his way back to grace. Or he could open the door and let the darkness in. Cain heard the words, but his heart was a sealed chamber, echoing only with the sound of its own wounded pride. He turned away from the voice of reason, from the hand of salvation reaching out in the twilight. He chose the shadow. "Let us go out to the field," Cain said to his brother. The words were simple, mundane, a mask for the monstrous intent coiling within him. Abel, his heart pure and unsuspecting, saw only his brother, and he agreed. He followed Cain out, past the familiar boundaries of their home, into the silent, open spaces where the earth drank the sunlight. There, where no eyes but God's could see, the envy that had festered in Cain's heart finally erupted. The resentment, the bitterness, the perceived injustice, it all converged into a single, horrific act of will. Rage, red and blinding, consumed him. He rose up against his brother Abel. The hands that had once tilled the earth, that had sown seeds of life, were now instruments of death. The first human blood cried out from the ground, staining the world with a sorrow it had never known. The silence that followed was heavier than any mountain, deeper than any sea. Abel, the gentle shepherd, lay still. The first murder was complete. The innocence of the world was shattered. As Cain stood over the body of his brother, the fire of his rage cooled into the cold, gray ash of realization. The field was no longer just a field, it was a grave. The silence was no longer peaceful, it was an accusation. He was alone, utterly and terribly alone, with the echo of what he had done. Then the voice of God returned, not as a gentle counselor, but as a righteous judge. "Where is your brother Abel?" The question was not for information, for God knew. It was for confession. It was a final, terrible chance for Cain to own the truth. But Cain, now a creature of deceit, wrapped himself in a lie. "I do not know," he snarled, his voice laced with a bitterness that tasted of ash. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The lie was a second blow, a betrayal not just of his brother, but of God and of his own humanity. And with that, the judgment fell. "What have you done?" The voice thundered, the very ground seeming to tremble. "Listen. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." The curse was a mirror of his crime. The earth he had loved now rejected him. The connection he once had to the soil was severed. He was to be a ghost upon the land, forever wandering, forever an outsider. The weight of this sentence crushed him. "My punishment is more than I can bear," Cain cried out, a wail of self-pity, not repentance. "Whoever finds me will kill me." But even in judgment, there was a strange and terrible mercy. God did not wish for a cycle of vengeance to begin. He placed a mark upon Cain, a sign not of shame, but of divine protection. It was a declaration that vengeance belonged to God alone. This mark, this scar of grace, would follow him through his restless journey. Cain turned his back on the garden, on the land of his birth, and went out from the Lord's presence. He walked into the land of Nod, the land of wandering, east of Eden. He carried with him the memory of his brother's blood, the echo of God's judgment, and the mark of a strange, sorrowful protection. He would build a city, have a son, and his descendants would populate the earth. But the first wound had been struck, and the world would forever carry its scar. The question, "Am I my brother's keeper?" would hang in the air for all of humanity to answer, in every generation, until the end of time. It's a story written to explore the depths of human fragility, the corrosive nature of envy, and the inescapable presence of divine justice, telling the story of Cain and Abel in a way that resonates with the eternal struggle between light and darkness within every human heart.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.